On June 7th, the Adventure Week is going to be coming back to Pokemon GO, and Adventure Week is one of the best events that Pokemon GO has ever had, and since it's a bit away, we still don't know quite what we're going to get for this specific Adventure Week, but we can use previous Adventure Weeks to kind of figure it out, so let's dive into the past. We're going to be using the Pokemon GO wiki pages to go over all the past Adventure Weeks, so let's start with 2017's, which was one of the first events in Pokemon GO. It wasn't the first, but it was definitely one of the first, because it took them until 2017 to start actually putting events in the game. So the features were 0.25 buddy distance, which was great. So if you had a Pokemon that took 1 kilometer in order for you to get a candy from it, it took 0.25, and that was for everything. So if it took 5 kilometers, it took a quarter of that. It was just a great time, especially back when we had rare spawns that were hard to find. You could get the candies more, so you could evolve at least the one that you were able to find, which was great. More items from Pokestops, which was great. We also had fossil Pokemon spawns were increased. Very good back then, because fossil Pokemon were very rare. Outside of eggs, it was really hard to find them in the wild. And then we had a brand new avatar item, which I believe was like an adventure hat, or like an Indiana Jones kind of like archaeologist hat. And then 50% off Pokeballs in the shop, which back then was cool, but nowadays we don't really do that. And during that time, the Pokemon that were increased were just the fossil Pokemon, which were Ammonite, Amistar, Kabuto, Kabutops, and Aerodactyl. It was a fun event, you know, we had some cool bonuses for sure. These Pokemon at the time were like super rare and awesome spawns, so a lot of people really liked this event. Now let's dive into 2018's Adventure Week, which was also pretty fantastic. The features included 2 times XP for spinning Pokestops, which was really great, 10 times for spinning brand new Pokestops, which was really good. We got the 0.25 buddy distance back again, which was really nice. More items from Pokestops. We had the introduction of shiny Ammonite, Kabuto, and Aerodactyl, 3 brand new shinies, which was really cool. Rock-type Pokemon spawns were increased, Rock-type Pokemon raid battles, and themed research and special shop offers, which were neat. So there's all our brand new shiny Pokemon we got, which was a huge surprise, because back then they didn't tell us what was going to be shiny. It just was like Twitter that told us like, hey, I found this shiny. So it was cool that they did every single one of these. And as for wild spawns, it wasn't just fossil Pokemon. They added a few more rock types in the mix, which was nice. Now let's dive into 2019's Adventure Week, which was really good, and they brought back a lot of good features. For starters, 10 times XP for spinning a brand new stop. They brought that back. A quarter walking distance for your buddy candy. That's the 3rd year in a row where they brought that back. An Adventure Sync bonus, which I don't quite remember what that was, but they had a little extra in there. Shiny Onix, Lileep, and Anorith. 3 more brand new shinies were introduced to the game, which is great. Rock-type Pokemon are increased. We have Rock-type Pokemon and eggs, Rock-type Pokemon and raid battles, themed research, special shop offers, and a brand new avatar item. That was pretty much the exact same as the previous years, right? We have 3 brand new shinies, which was great, and technically it's 6 because of their evolutions, but still really cool time with that. They had Rock-type Pokemon in the wild, including the regionals. They actually boosted the Rock-type regionals, which was an interesting touch. As for the Rock-type Pokemon and eggs, they had them in 2-kilometer eggs, which was really nice, because 2-kilometer eggs are easier to hatch than 7-kilometer eggs, and you're not limited, so if you really wanted to go for a shiny one of these or a really good IV of it, you could hatch as much as possible, and it was really nice. So as you just saw, there's quite a few patterns with the previous Adventure Weeks. We have a lot of repeating features, so we could assume that some of them are going to show up for this Adventure Week. I'm pretty sure we're going to get 10 times XP for spinning a brand new Pokestop, and luckily, thanks to Wayfarer, there's tons more brand new Pokestops out there, so that'll be great. I'm pretty sure we're going to get a quarter walking distance to get candies with our buddies again, because it's shown up on every single one previously, and it's a great bonus right now, especially because we have XL candies in the game. So if you have a Pokemon that's level 40 or higher, it has a pretty high chance of getting an XL candy when you walk with it, which is fantastic. And now it's going to take a quarter of the distance to get those candies, so you might want to walk legendaries. Instead of it taking 20 kilometers to get 1 candy and a possible XL, it's now going to take 5 kilometers. But think about this, if you throw a Puffin on that legendary, it's now 2.5 kilometers to get 1 candy and a pretty good chance of getting an XL. You could really take advantage of this event and get a lot of XL candies for your legendaries that you really want to max if you can't really raid them, or like mythicals, like Zarude. You cannot raid for that. You have to either use XL rare candy or use rare candies to get 100 candies to turn it into 1 XL, or walk with it normally, which would be 20 to 10 kilometers if you've used a Poffin. So during this time, take advantage of this bonus because you will get a lot of XLs for the legendary slash mythicals that you want to power up. More than likely, we're going to have increased rock type Pokemon in the wild, in raids, and in our eggs, which will be fun. And more than likely, we're going to have themed research for the event. We're probably going to have a special offer in the shop and probably some brand new avatar items. But for the brand new shiny Pokemon they're going to introduce, one would assume that they would probably introduce Shieldon and Cranidos as shinies, but they already did that during the Ultra Unlock Part 2 of last year's Go Fest. And as you can see, I have them here right now. So there's shiny Cranidos, which if these are spawning in the wild heavily during the Adventure Week, go for it. It is the #1 rock type Pokemon when you evolve it into Rampardos. Sadly, this one is not very good, but they are insanely good rock types. You can solo a Moltres with just a team of these, so definitely grind for them. Try to get as many XLs as possible, and try to get a few shinies here and there, because a lot of people want to lucky reroll these. And of course, we also have Shieldon, which is pretty decent in PvP as a Bastiodon. People love using Bastiodon. It is a tank. It's actually very useful, so if you see these out and about and you love PvP and you don't have a good Bastiodon yet, definitely grind these out. So if we're gonna follow the theme of the Adventure Week, one would assume that our brand new shiny Pokemon for this year are going to be shiny Tirtouga and shiny Archen. Both really nice shinies. I will say I like Tirtouga a little bit more. It's really nice. Archen, though, does change quite a bit, and I like it a lot. When they evolve, they're not as good as their previous forms. Caracosta gets a little bit darker, which is kind of nice, and then Archeops is kind of hard to tell that it's shiny. I mean, the wings turn green. That's the biggest giveaway instead of them being blue, but it's really not that different. But both are pretty nice shinies all in all, but none of them are really all that useful PvP-wise or in things like raids or anything like that. They're more just trophies to have. And if they're planning on introducing a third shiny rock-type Pokemon, currently every single rock-type Pokemon in the game right now can be shiny, except for Tirtouga and Archen, but we're expecting those to come out. There's only one that hasn't been released as of yet in its shiny form, and that is Relicanth. Don't know if they're going to do that, to be honest with you, because it feels like something they're going to wait for the Hoenn tour, you know, so that they can put those in raids and everybody's going to go crazy on them. But maybe that's what they're going to do for the Adventure Week. Maybe we're going to have Relicanth in raids, because it is a regional Pokemon to New Zealand, so obviously we're not going to go out and find them in the wild. They could do that, but I highly doubt they're going to do that, but it would be interesting. I would definitely go hard for it. I wouldn't get one shiny Relicanth for sure, and I also want to get XLs for it, because I have a Hundo Relicanth that I caught in Orlando during the Worldwide Safari Zone for Liverpool, so I would absolutely love to be able to max that thing out, so it would be cool if they did it, but I'm not gonna hold my breath on it. And if we're sticking to the fossil Pokemon theme, this event might be when they finally decide to introduce Tyrunt and Amaura, the Gen 6 fossil Pokemon, and they're both pretty cool. So let's dive into them real quick. Let's start off with Tyrunt. It is a rock and dragon type Pokemon, the first time that combination has ever been made in Pokemon Go, which is pretty neat. And for its stats, it's pretty interesting. It gets a max CP of 1848, which is pretty nice, not bad at all. An attack of 158, a defense of 123, and a stamina of 151. So as you can tell, it can attack pretty good, but it's gonna be a little bit glassy. But when it comes down to its moves, it might actually be somewhat decent for PvP, though I'm not quite sure. It's gonna have Dragon Tail and Tackle as its fast moves. That's all it can get, so clearly Dragon Tail is the better thing to use because it does get Stab, and it's pretty decent for damage slash energy gain in PvP. And for its charge moves, it gets Dragon Claw, Stomp, and Ancient Power, which don't take much time to charge. I would personally run one with Dragon Tail, Dragon Claw, and Ancient Power, and you might even get lucky and throw an Ancient Power and get the buff for the attack and defense, which would make that Tyrunt pretty useful in battle. The only downside is Dragon and Rock together have a lot of weaknesses, so I don't know how exactly useful it's going to be for PvP, but for PvE, Tyrunt isn't really what you want to use anyways. Now let's go over Tyrunt's evolution, Tyrantrum, one of my personal favorite Pokemon, because it's literally a T-Rex Pokemon, but let's go over its stats real quick. Its max CP will be 3537 at level 50 at 100%, which is a pretty decent number. Its attack is 227, defense 191, and stamina is 193. So again, more of an attack-heavy Pokemon, but a slightly better defense and stamina there, but I still feel like it's gonna be a little bit glassy. Tyrantrum has 3 possible fast moves as of right now, though I should mention that this is all data-mined information, so we don't know exactly what it's gonna get until it finally comes out, but these are the 3 that we know of. It gets Dragon Tail, Rock Throw, which is interesting, and it also gets Charm, which is really cool and strange, because as we know in Pokemon Go, Charm is basically like a fairy-type confusion. It hits really hard, so it's kind of cool that a dragon and rock type gets it, but again, it might lose it once, you know, it finally enters the game. And the 4 charge moves it has so far are Outrage, Stone Edge, Earthquake, and Crunch. So for PvP, its moves are okay. Crunch is definitely good because it's faster to charge up, and also when you use it, it has a chance of lowering your opponent's defense, which is really nice. But I mean, Earthquake and Stone Edge and Outrage are all single bar moves, so it takes a while to charge them, so I don't know how viable Tyrantrum's going to be when it comes down to PvP. As for PvE, there's a lot of better things to use besides it, so PvP is more than likely where you would see one of these things, but again, with all the weaknesses it has. In fact, let me tell you all the weaknesses. I got them right here. It is weak to Dragon, Fairy, Fighting, Ground, Ice, and Steel. A lot of those show up in PvP pretty heavily, though it is strong against Fire, Electric, Flying, Normal, and Poison-type Pokemon, so it does have some decent counters, but for the most part, a lot of what I mentioned earlier shows up pretty heavily in PvP, so I just don't see how useful this thing is going to be, but I absolutely love Tyrantrum, so I'm definitely going to try to get at least a hundo just to have it. Now let's talk about Amaura, the rock and ice type long-necked dinosaur. I love its design, it looks really great, and its stats are pretty interesting. It has a max CP of 1541 at level 50 at 100%. Its attack is 124, its defense is 109, and its stamina is 184. So even though it has a pretty good stamina, its defense is kind of down there. And being a rock and ice type, Fighting and Steel types will absolutely destroy this Pokemon, so I don't know how useful it's going to be in total when it comes down to things like PvP, but if we dive into its moves, it's got good moves. It gets Frost Breath and Powder Snow, which are both really good, Powder Snow being slightly better, and for its movesets, it has the Ice Weather Ball, which is fantastic, so you might want to run a Powder Snow, Ice Weather Ball, and Ancient Power combination on this thing, and it could be pretty good because, I mean, again, the Weather Ball hits pretty hard, and the Ancient Power also has the chance of buffing you, so it could actually be pretty viable, but again, there's a lot of fighting-type Pokemon that we use in PvP that will absolutely shred Amaura. And then there's the evolution of Amaura, Aurorus, which is a really beautifully designed Pokemon, absolutely love it, and it has decent stats altogether. Max CP at level 50 at 100%, it's 3168, not bad, an attack of 186, a defense of 163, and a stamina of 265. So it's got a lot of HP, its defense has gotten slightly better, and its attack is a little better as well, so it could be useful in certain situations, but again, being a rock and ice type, it has pretty big flaws when it comes down to steel and rock types, but let's dive into its moves. For its fast moves, it only has 2 of them at the moment, Frost Breath and Rock Throw, both pretty decent for energy gain and pretty decent for actually doing damage. And currently it has 5 charge moves, Ice Weather Ball, Blizzard, Hyper Beam, Thunderbolt, and Ancient Power. Pretty decent combinations there, though I would still probably run the Ice Weather Ball and the Ancient Power on it, because again, these things take very little time to charge, they do decent damage, and with the Ancient Power, you have a chance of buffing your Pokemon's attack and defense stat by a bit, so it has some uses, but when you run against a Machamp or a Shadow Machamp or a Vigoroth or anything with counter, a Medicham even, you might be losing really quickly because of that double weakness. And that's all my predictions for the upcoming Adventure Week coming very soon to Pokemon Go, but let me know in the comments down below. Do you think I'm right about my predictions? Do you think that I missed something? Please tell me in the comments down below, I would love to know. Don't forget to smash the like button for me, show me some love, subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell icon so you know when I upload. Links for Patreon and merch are in the description box below, but with that being said, this is the end of the video. I'll see you in the next one.